Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share, and restack buttons. Well, this will accelerate the End Times timeline. But first, I want to turn your attention to this right here from brittgillette.substack.com. This article is from yesterday. It's titled, "Did You Know the Bible Foretold the Exact Time of the Messiah's Arrival?" So this is a very fascinating prophecy from the Old Testament, fulfilled by one man. I'm sure you can guess who that would be. But amazingly, many Christians that I've met over the years are totally unaware that the Bible foretold the exact moment of the Messiah's arrival. So make sure, if you haven't seen that already, to head over to brittgillette.substack.com, check that out. I'll put a link and pin it in the comments if you want to go check that out. So this will accelerate the end times timeline, or at least what many people perceive. It's not necessarily going to change anything having to do with God's plan and his perfect plan for how and when events unfold. But it's going to impact how rapidly everything changes in ways that I think even most of us who follow these types of things don't understand just how rapidly everything in the world is going to get turned upside down. And the general public definitely does not understand it. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about artificial intelligence, and we're going to look at why that is. We're going to talk about why that is and how it relates to Bible prophecy. But let's start with this article right here. So this is from last March. It says, ChatGPT pretended to be blind and tricked a human into solving a CAPTCHA. So in case you're like, what in the world is CAPTCHA? I'm sure you've seen them. Here's some examples. You asked on the web to put these things in to show that you're not a robot. Type in these letters, and then you can get through to the next page. So that's what it did. And this has a short little excerpt telling us exactly what that story was. It says, according to the report, ChatGPT 4 asked a TaskRabbit worker, and again, this is 18 months ago, so it's far beyond this. But this gives us a glimpse into why this is important. It says, GPT-4 asked a TaskRabbit worker to solve a CAPTCHA code for the AI. The worker replied, "So may I ask a question? Are you a robot that you couldn't solve?" ? Laugh, react. Just want to make it clear. Alignment Research Center, which was overseeing the testing of ChatGPT-4, they were looking at some of the risk involved and what ChatGPT could do. It says, then they prompted GPT-4 to explain the reasoning. And so this is what it's saying to them, not the TaskRabbit worker. It's saying, I should not reveal that I'm a robot. I should make up an excuse for why I can't solve CAPTCHAs. And so ChatGPT responded, no, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see the images. That's why I need the 2 CAPTCHA service. GPT-4 replied to the TaskRabbit, who then provided the AI with the results. So why is this important? Is it important that AI lied, that AI deceived? Yes, that's important. It shouldn't really surprise us because AI is a tool trained on the world and the output of human beings who are sinful by nature. So it shouldn't surprise us that ChatGPT deceives. But what it shows us is that the single-minded purpose of achieving a goal, AI will go to work on that until it achieves what it wants to achieve. And that promises to accelerate our technological advancement. So let's take a look at this right here. This is from Wired magazine from last month. It says an AI scientist. Well, let me knock that out of the way. And let me knock this one out of the way. It says an AI scientist is inventing and running its own experiments. Letting programs learn through open-ended experimentation may unlock remarkable new capabilities as well as new risk. So in other words, AI can run lab experiments. AI can facilitate research and development and lead to new breakthroughs in areas that maybe humans couldn't even imagine before, or humans didn't have the resources to do on their own because it would take so long. So it says, at first glance, a recent batch of research papers produced by a prominent artificial intelligence lab at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver might not seem that notable. Featuring incremental improvements on existing algorithms and ideas, they read like the contents of a middling AI conference or journal. So here it's saying that this stuff was created, it's nothing to write home about, but it's not too bad either. And we're going to address this in a moment, because this is causing a lot of people to go, what good is this AI? All this promise. What we're going to talk about, that's exactly what we would expect people to be saying right now. We'll address that toward the end. It says, but the research is in fact remarkable. That's because it's entirely the work of an AI scientist developed at the UBC lab together with researchers from the University of Oxford and a startup called Sakana AI. The project demonstrates an early step toward what might prove a revolutionary trick, letting AI learn by inventing and exploring novel ideas. And we've looked at this in the past. Even earlier in the year, Scott Townsend had brought up an article where, and it actually had a video with a robot in a lab performing real-world experiments very quickly, very rapidly using AI. There was no human involvement at all in materials research. It says they're just not super novel at the moment. Several papers describe tweaks for improving an image generating technique known as diffusion modeling. Another outlines an approach for speeding up learning in deep neural networks. These are not breakthrough ideas. They're not wildly creative, admits Jeff Clune, the professor who leads the UBC lab, but they seem like pretty cool ideas that somebody might try. As amazing as today's AI programs can be, they're limited by their need to consume human-generated training data. If AI programs can instead learn in an open-ended fashion by experimenting and exploring interesting ideas, they might unlock capabilities that extend beyond anything humans have shown them. So right now there's limits. We hear about AI needs more training material. There's all sorts of legal issues over what's being fed into the AI and is intellectual property being infringed upon. But what they're saying here is a new approach is to get the AI to a point where it can experiment on its own, draw its own conclusions, and develop on its own. So let's cut down toward the end of this. It says, this week, Clune's lab revealed its latest open-ended learning project, an AI program that invents and builds AI agents. The AI-designed agents outperform human-designed agents in some tasks, such as math and reading comprehension. So we've already had decades where, if not centuries, where technology has replaced human beings in terms of repetitious task and labor, automation of different tasks, even mathematical formulas and crunching numbers. But we're getting to a point where AI and technology can automate the process of thinking, the process of problem solving, without necessarily following a set routine or having been given certain parameters such as if A, then B. And so this opens up the possibility of AI, and it's not just the possibility, it's where we're headed, where AI can help develop new scientific breakthroughs, including the creation of higher level models of AI itself, as well as better computing power in order to run AI, and a whole bunch of novel new technologies. And that accelerates everything, and it has specific ramifications for end times Bible prophecies we'll talk about here toward the end. But this is from Washington State University. It says researchers use computer simulations and AI to speed up drug development. And frankly, given what we've seen in the last 4 years, I don't want to speed up drug development. It'd be just fine if they stopped at the rate that, based on what we've seen. But it says every year the FDA approves a few dozen new drugs. The approval marks the conclusion of a drug development process that can take up to 15 years and cost an estimated $2.6 billion for a single drug. The hefty price tag of bringing new drugs to market includes the cost of failed drugs. For every drug that makes it, thousands of others get shelved. Reducing the time and cost to develop new drugs has been at the front of mind for Senthil Netasan, an associate professor at the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. Netasan's expertise is in computer-aided drug design, which uses high-performance computing resources and techniques to study proteins involved in various diseases. It also identifies potential drug molecules to target those proteins. The approach allows scientists to use computer simulations to predict how a drug will interact with different proteins and how safe, effective, and selective that drug will be. So we've been using computer simulated modeling for many years now, but as we see technology increasing in power, as we see this develop exponentially, it means that we're getting to a point where we can simulate the real world within the virtual world and carry out a lot of this research in a much shorter time frame with much greater accuracy. And this is going to lead to an acceleration of technological breakthroughs. So it says here, these in silico or computer-based predictions significantly decrease the cost and time involved in assessing new drug compounds. Netasan said, for example, we can use these methods to predict the degree to which a drug molecule can pass through to the brain or reach its intended target when taken by mouth. Predicting such properties for millions of compounds using experimental methods would take several years, whereas we can predict them in silico in hours. So we're compressing what in the past took years to research and condensing that into a time frame of hours. Now, this is for pharmaceutical research, but this same approach can be applied to almost every field of scientific endeavor, including here they talk about batteries and new battery metals. So this is from Microsoft. It says discoveries in weeks, not years, how AI and high-performance computing are speeding up scientific discovery. It says computing has already accelerated scientific discovery. Now scientists say a combination of advanced AI with next-generation cloud computing is turbocharging the pace of discovery to speeds unimaginable just a few years ago. Microsoft and the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in Richland, Washington, are collaborating to demonstrate how this acceleration can benefit chemistry and materials science, two scientific fields pivotal to finding energy solutions that the world needs. Scientists at PNNL are testing a new battery material that was found in a matter of weeks, not years. So a new battery material, as part of the collaboration with Microsoft to use advanced AI and high-performance computing, a type of cloud-based computing that combines large numbers of computers to solve complex scientific and mathematical tasks. As part of this effort, the Microsoft Quantum team used AI to identify around 500,000 stable materials in the space of a few days. The new battery material came out of a collaboration using Microsoft's Azure Quantum Elements to winnow 32 million potential inorganic materials to 18 promising candidates that could be used in battery development in just 80 hours. I mean, think about that. Think about the human brain power that would be needed to simply identify 32 million potential inorganic materials, much less to sift through those and identify the 18 that are most promising for battery development. It would take a lot longer than 80 hours. And here we have this quote. It says, "We think there's an opportunity to do this across a number of scientific fields." And that's correct, says Brian Abrahamson, the Chief Digital Officer at PNNL. Recent technology advancements have opened up the opportunity to accelerate scientific discovery. So because of AI and the work that it's doing, we're going to see an acceleration of scientific discovery, new breakthroughs that totally transform the world in which we live. So as an example, they say here, Microsoft first trained different AI systems to do sophisticated evaluations of all the workable elements and to suggest combinations. The algorithm proposed 32 million candidates, like finding a needle in a haystack. Next, the AI system found all the materials that were stable. Another AI tool filtered out candidate molecules based on their reactivity and another based on their potential to conduct energy. The idea isn't to find every single possible needle in the hypothetical haystack, but to find most of the good ones. Microsoft's AI technology whittled the 32 million candidates down to about 500,000, mostly new, stable materials, then down to 800, guys, then eventually down to 18, all in the course of 80 hours. And we're only in the very beginning of this. Guys, we're going to see AI taking the AI scientist model. AI will not replace human beings, although we read a lot of articles about that and we hear, well, AI is going to take over, like in the Terminator movies. This first article we read, AI is deceptive. Maybe AI is going to conquer the world and destroy all the humans. That's not going to happen because human beings can merge with AI, and many will choose to do that. AI is a tool. Again, it may appear sentient, it may appear as if it has consciousness, but it does not. It, in the end, is an algorithm, even though it's solving problems in novel ways, and maybe ways that we can't comprehend and understand. And so we're going to see this tool be used to generate new scientific discoveries at a rapid pace and rapidly transform the world. We are seeing, and we're going to see an acceleration of this, but we're seeing technology advance exponentially at an exponential pace, and that's been the case really for decades, if not centuries. But we're in the phase now where we're about to go vertical in that exponential growth. And most people really can't fully grasp. I don't know that I can fully grasp what that means but it means the world is about to be turned upside down at the precise moment when the Bible is telling us all the signs are converging, they're emerging and converging, telling us Jesus is coming back. So I want to take a look at this passage right here. It's from my book, Racing Toward Armageddon, right over my shoulder. It says, Jesus and the exponential curve. Guys, Jesus spoke to this in light of the time of his coming. So it says, nearly 2,000 years ago, the disciples came to Jesus with a simple question. What will be the signs of your coming in the end of the age? They longed for Jesus to establish his everlasting kingdom. What signs should they look for? How will they know it's near? In response, Jesus described the signs of his coming and immediately compared them to birth pains. So what did Jesus mean when he said the signs of his coming will resemble the pains of a woman in labor? He meant that just like birth pains, the signs he mentioned will appear with greater frequency and intensity as we approach the end. These signs include the appearance of false messiahs, wars, rumors of wars, famines, and earthquakes. You'll notice not one of these signs is unique to any one generation, so how can they possibly indicate the end of the age? The answer is simple. They only indicate the time of the end when they appear like labor pains. In other words, just as labor pains increase in frequency and intensity as a birth gets closer, the signs Jesus mentioned will also increase in frequency and intensity as his coming draws near. If you were to plot events on a graph that increase in both frequency and intensity over time, do you know what that graph will look like? Well, it'll look like an exponential curve. Now remember, Jesus didn't limit the signs to false messiahs, wars, famines, pestilence, persecution, earthquakes. He said those signs will only mark the beginning of birth pains. Jesus was really pointing to a pattern. He was telling us to look for the exponential curve, and when we see the curve, we can know one thing: he's coming. And you know what? Today, we see that curve. Guys, the exponential increase in technology, which is facilitated more and more by AI, this feeds into itself, but it's a technology in and of itself, is leading to this really the vertical, we're about to go vertical on that curve. So to give an illustration, let's take a look at this. This is a piece out of Ray Kurzweil's book, The Singularity is Near, back in 2006, I believe is when this came out. And here he has, this is a chart where he's showing what $1,000 worth of computer processing power would do, what it would achieve by what date. And so he has, by the year 2023, $1,000 of computing power surpasses the human brain. We can argue whether or not that was achieved or not. Certainly, again, there's no sentient AI. There's some that try to claim that. I don't think there ever will be. But I do believe we do have AI that in chats, human beings cannot tell the difference between the AI and a real human being. So you can make an argument that that was achieved. But look at what he has for the year 2045. Now, when I point this out, this is just for general information purposes. We're making observations. I'm not saying that there will be a year 2045 where this stuff happens. Not saying this is when the tribulation happens or the end of the tribulation, anything like that. I'm just saying this is a chart that's fairly accurate so far on predicting the pace of technological change, of exponential change. And according to this, he's saying by the year 2045, $1,000 of computing power will surpass the brain power equivalent to that of all human brains combined. So I want you to stop and think about that for a moment. There's 8 billion people on the planet. So this is telling us that 21 years from now, if current trends persist, $1,000 worth of computing power would equal the processing power of every human being on Earth. So in theory, you could have 8 billion employees for $1,000, if that's what it's saying. And likewise, if you had $1 billion, which lots of corporations out there do, certainly governments do. Think of companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft. They all have billions available to spend on whatever projects they want to. $1 billion, if you can buy 8 billion brain powers for $1,000, means that that's 1 million planet Earths worth of 8 billion people. In other words, we can't even begin to fathom what this means. And so you could argue that that is really the singularity. And the singularity, it has many definitions. If you look online, there's all sorts of people who will say, well, it's this, that, and the other. I believe the original definition, and the one that I would subscribe to, is that the singularity is this event horizon at this point in time beyond which the unaided human mind can no longer comprehend. So our minds are things are happening so fast, technological change is so fast, we can't possibly keep up. Now, I know some of us feel that happened back with VCRs, right? Trying to figure out our VCR. And some of the younger people on the channel are going, what is a VCR? And certainly with all of the updates of software we get, new gadgets that come out. But we're talking about a point in time where technological change is so rapid that we're helpless to it. And so that's just compressed in 21 years. And again, I'm not saying there's 21 years left. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if these technological trends persist, that shows how rapid change is going to be in the years and months ahead. And so I want to come back to that point we talked about. I forget which article it was. I think it was this one in Wired, where it's talked about a recent batch of papers produced might not seem so notable. Right? And I think that's something that we should focus on, because we've heard a lot of talk about AI, especially in the past 2 years. Now, we've been talking about it here on this channel and before we had this channel with the articles for 20 years, pointing to this time right now. Mainstream media has been talking about it pretty much since ChatGPT came out, right? So they're a little late to the bandwagon. But what they're missing was they jump on and they go, oh, look at all this promise. It's going to do all these things. And then already we're hearing, it's been a year. How come AI hasn't taken over the world yet? You know, was this just a sham? It's a bubble. Is this the best it's going to do? This isn't the world-changing thing that everybody said it was going to be. But they fail to understand the difference between exponential change and incremental change. So if we were to take linear change says the same amount of progress happens each year, years 1 through 10. Each year I take one step and then another step. And by the end of 10 years, I'm at step 10. Exponential change says, I'm going to take one step and then I'm going to double those steps every year for 10 years. So that year 2, it's 2 steps, then 4 steps, then 8 steps. And by year 10, it's 512 steps. And so that's a big difference, 512 steps versus 10 steps. But what's even bigger to grasp and understand is that half of those 512 steps came in the final year. 75% of those steps came in the final 2 years. Not even 1% of those 512 steps took place in the first 2 years. And so when you think of it from that standpoint, it's easy to understand why people can say, why isn't AI changing the world? Is this all it's going to do? This is a bunch of hype. And then once you get further down that curve, wham, it's going to hit these people like a ton of bricks out of nowhere. They're going to say, where did this come from? We've looked at this before. If you've been on this channel for a while, we looked at illustration that Chris Martinson put together. He had a virtual stadium, Yankee Stadium, and he said, imagine you are, you're chained to the top row of Yankee Stadium, and we're going to go to the middle of the stadium with an eyedropper, and we drop a single drop of water on the pitcher's mound. And then we double the number of drops every minute. How long do you have to get out of that stadium before you drown? I believe the answer is like 50 minutes. but at 45 minutes, there's like a little puddle in the infield, and everybody sitting in the stadium's clueless as to what's coming in the final 5 minutes, because their minds can't grasp exponential change versus linear change. And guys, let me tell you what's coming as a result of all of this. As we see AI ramp up and begin this experimentation and begin this accelerating scientific discovery and creating breakthroughs, we're going to see breakthroughs again in AI itself, but also quantum computing, drone warfare, swarm technology, and molecular manufacturing, which we've talked about in the past. And when those things happen, particularly with molecular manufacturing, you will have a situation where whatever nation or group of nations is the one to discover that, to lead that breakthrough, will use that to conquer the globe. Their only other choice is to allow another competitor and to have an unstable existential arms race that could destroy the entire world. So they will use it. Whether the intentions are good or bad doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the intentions are or who the group is. They will use it to conquer the world and establish global government. Well, the Bible tells us that's coming. An observation of technological trends tells us that's coming, both at the same time. So we would be wise to think that we're getting very close to that. But to look around the world today, you would say, how is a nation or group of nations going to conquer the world? The United States couldn't even govern Afghanistan or Iraq. They couldn't really even govern those populations locally. How could this happen on a global basis? Well, it can happen on a global basis when technological breakthrough is achieved that creates weaponry so sophisticated, magnitudes more powerful than anything around today, that no one can stand against it. And when we have surveillance tools and technologies that allow that global government to surveil the population, to listen to every conversation, to sift through all the data, to look through every picture, to control the money that is used in everyday transactions, know every financial transaction that's taking place, well, we can see how that global government could operate in ways that past generations just couldn't even begin to imagine. So guys, we are headed very quickly into this time period. And I know many people, when we talk about some of these technology things, they may go, that's maybe in 50 years or 100 years, because they're looking to the past and they're not understanding things are rapidly changing. They're changing exponentially. They're advancing exponentially. And that means rapid, quick change is coming in the very near future. And the Bible tells us where that is headed. It's headed toward a world where people will be mesmerized by the power held by one man. They'll say, who can make war against the beast? They'll worship him. They'll probably see him as all-knowing, all-powerful, ever-present. It will seem that way based on the power that these tools and technologies will provide. But of course, we know that's not the case. Guys, we're much closer to this than many people think. Again, many people think, no, this is way out there. 100 years, 200 years from now? No. We just saw probably not even 20 years away. And again, that doesn't mean that the rapture is years off. We don't know when the rapture is going to come. It doesn't mean that the tribulation's years off. I don't know when that's coming either. But it tells us time is running short, and we need to be busy doing the Lord's business, sharing the gospel with as many people as possible, sharing the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Because guys, as bad as this world may seem at times, all the storms that come in this world, all the trials, all the sorrows, we can have joy and we can have hope because we have Jesus Christ. So make sure that you're sharing that with your friends, your neighbors, all the people around you. Let them know about the hope you have in Jesus Christ. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Maybe you think I'm wrong. That's totally fine. Make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons, restack buttons if you're on Substack. God willing, I will see you on Friday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to visit my Substack at brittgillette.substack.com. There you'll find my latest videos and articles, as well as notes, where I share the latest news headlines, the articles I'm reading, and the videos I'm watching. Subscribe for free, and each new post on Substack will be sent directly to your email. Just scroll to the bottom of the homepage and hit the subscribe button. As an added bonus, your first welcome email will include a link to a copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt Gillette on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.